Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis. Tonight, we go behind the scenes of the movie Escape from Death Block 13. Vengeance can't be caged unless it's on Whiskey Business. And welcome to Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey. I never get tired of saying it, as it is one with whiskey. And tonight, we're going to have some fun this evening. You know, aside from the podcast, and he said with his tongue in his cheek, sarcastically, my extensive career in radio, which I'm back in, we also make films. John Whitney, put that thumb up there, Johnny. John Whitney.
That thumb up where? For the listeners at home,
I have a
he's putting the thumb.
Okay,
yeah, he's putting the thumb in front of the camera.
I've partnered up with
it's not one of those films.
Many occasions to make films, and it's not an easy thing to do. You know, if making movies was easy, then everybody would do it. I know what you're thinking. Oh, everybody is doing it now with iPhones that can make movies. You see the commercials, and they make it look so simple and easy. It's not. It's not. I don't care on what level it is. Small budget, low budget, big budget. Making movies is hard. And it doesn't even matter what kind of movie it is. Action, romance, comedy. Making movies is hard. But our guest tonight, Gary Jones, has been making movies for quite some time. And he's made a lot of them. And he's got a new one. And this one, I have so many questions for him because I don't even know the answers. I have a lot of questions. But this one, I just love the title alone. You're going to be able to see it soon in November on all the streaming platforms. And it's going to have some screenings in and around Ohio as well prior to that. But we're going to be talking about Escape from Death Block 13. The title says it all, doesn't it? Vengeance can't be caged. And we'll find out if it can be or not. Before we get to Gary, and I should also add actor Chris Hahn, who's in the movie playing Bunyan, who's worked with Gary in the past as well. A lot of questions for him. Some of you wrestling fans, maybe he looks familiar to you. I don't know how long ago he did the wrestling thing, but we'll find out more about that as well. So much on tap for tonight's podcast, Hansberry, including some of the business that we have to do beforehand. And I'll introduce the guest bottle, which is appropriate for tonight's podcast and subject matter. So I'm very excited about the whole thing.
That's a good cliffhanger. Good. They're going to have to stick through the business to find out what the name of the liquor is called.
Right.
That's good. That's good radio.
Thank you. I'm learning. No, I'm back in the radio sound. I'm doing the creative tease.
Thanks to our network, Evergreen Podcasts. You can check them out at evergreenpodcast.com. They're our network. We're proud to be a part of them. At their website, you can find all sorts of episodes or different types of podcasts they've got, ranging from like kids stuff to true crime to music and everything. So there's a lot there
to this
nonsense, right? WhiskeyBusinessPod.com is where you can find everything whiskey business, including archived episodes and our new headshots. Well,
hey, we worked hard on those.
Those look good.
There for at least 10 minutes to
we're not attractive people. It was tough to get a good picture.
Yeah. The Photoshop skills on Jennifer. 10 out of 10, Jen.
Yeah.
YouTube Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis. This, if you're listening on your favorite podcasting app, thank you by the way for subscribing and rating and reviewing. But you might want to check us out on YouTube because John does a great job editing the videos. But if I'm not wrong, I think we got some clips of the movie that we're going to be able to like sneak in there a little bit, right, guys?
Yeah.
So as we're talking, you're actually going to be able to see some of the scenes that we're talking about. Some of it's Chris in action and everybody in action. So this would be a good one to check out. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Peacock. We on Peacock?
We're on Peacock.
Okay.
Not on Peacock. But you know what? Out of all the fictitious extra things that you say we're on, Peacock might be the closest one we can maybe get to.
Possibly one day.
Possibly someday. Yeah. Maybe.
That's
someday.
Good. All right.
Maybe. This whole nonsense. Somebody from the Peacock network was like, we should turn that thing into a TV show.
First Peacock, then Shudder.
Probably the other way around. And our guest bottle tonight, since we're going to be talking about an action prison film, Escape from Death Block 13, we thought, and this is all on John Whitney. John Whitney had the stroke of genius. He came across our guest bottle for tonight. I believe it's bottle 179 here on the podcast. Big House, straight bourbon whiskey, aged 6 years from the good people at Sazerac. This is on the low end of your whiskey shelves. This retails for about $17 a bottle. It's aged 6 years. It is deceivingly cheap, but pretty darn good.
Hey, it's Sazerac. What do you want?
Well, that's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes just because the name is Sazerac, doesn't always mean that they put out some good stuff. But in this case, this is a very drinkable, everyday bourbon, especially for the price. 6 years. It's got a nice little on the nose. I picked up the kind of a spicy hot nose, but then when you drink it, it's got a nice little touch of vanilla and caramel in it. And it's very drinkable. You can enjoy it neat or throw a rock in there and enjoy it that way. But for the price and the quality, all tied into it, 90 proof.
And the artwork.
And the artwork alone. Yeah, big house.
It's got a great finish.
Bourbon.
I like it.
Yeah. For I think I can't remember what their tagline in it has something to do like Big House Bourbon for bourbon drinkers on the inside. Yeah. or something.
I think you should pitch that to him.
Or something like that. So
On the
cell
lamb.
block.
yeah, right. So appropriate.
There we go.
We love a theme whenever we can get one.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Our guests are writer, director Gary Jones, and actor Chris Hahn, who plays Bunyan in Escape from Death Clock 13, which I have a follow-up question for that name later when we talk
We could
about
do a whole
some of
episode
the,
on
some of
Bunyan
the-
alone.
I know the answer to that one.
You know the answer to that one. I believe that his character's name is an homage
Yes.
to
A
something which
callback to it.
we'll get to later.
Yes.
But let's talk about Escape from Death Block 13 and talk to Gary Jones for start. Chris, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank
man.
you for having me.
I appreciate you coming down. I saw some of your clips in the stuff that Gary said. I saw the bullpen fight scene, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. And to me, it looked like you guys were actually kicking each other's ass. So bravo, well done. Gary Jones, you make a lot of movies. You've made a lot of movies.
Trying to make more too.
Trying to make more.
Yeah.
So I know that this is something that you always wanted to do as a kid. This has always been. And how many kids get to grow up and actually do what they daydreamed and said one day, I want to make the kind of movies that I loved watching as a kid?
That's it. I mean, it was the dream as a kid. I would sit in front of the TV and everybody be outside playing football or working on cars, and I'm sitting there watching King Kong and Mighty Joe Young and all the war movies and action movies. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to just make movies? Is there a job? How do you do that? So yeah, I mean, it was something as a little kid is what I always wanted to do, and I thought, I'll get there one day. I just didn't know how.
Right.
I didn't know it'd take a long time, but got there eventually. But yeah, it's been cool.
Aside from the very first feature film you made, which we'll get to here in just a little bit, what was the first thing you put on film on a camera where you actually got to say, I'm going to make a movie, and as a kid even?
Yeah, well, I mean, I started out, I always watched all the war movies and action movies and creature features, and I was interested in special effects. So like the first stuff I did was we'd watch these war movies and we'd see people get shot and things blow up. So I had some friends who were a little bit older, and they would buy us black powder because I found a book in the library called The Technique of Special Effects Cinematography, and in that they had a chapter on mortars and explosions and how they for war movies, and then also there was a thing called squibs. Which they use for bullet hits. And so I would read all this stuff and go, and I realized, wait a minute, that's squib. Okay, I can't get that, but it looks like a firecracker. So if I take a firecracker and solar, anyways, I won't get into it, but basically I started out making these little things, these little bullet hit squibs and blood bags.
How old are we when we came upon this discovery?
11, 12.
Still have all your fingers. So
Got all the fingers and toes. So,
They went through
Gotta
a bunch
go
of
make a
ketchup
movie, Mom.
packets.
Be right back. Be
But
home later.
That was really the kind of the start. So it was practicing and doing special effects stuff. And so I'd rig my brothers up with a bunch of bullet hit squibs, and we'd shoot it with Super 8 cameras. But then I realized, okay, I've got to do something more than just doing gags and things, And so the first thing I shot was kind of like a little horror thing, where again using my brother and sister, and my sister has a knife and she sneaks down the hallway and she's going to stab my brother to death. And so I shoot that in Super 8. And I remember vividly, starting out with the Super 8 camera, you put the little cartridge in and you film, and then you take the cartridge out and you'd go to Kmart's and Kmart's would send it away to New York or New Jersey, and you'd wait a week or two.
Right.
Then it comes back, and you're like, it's back, and you go get it, save up the money, and pay the $2. And then I'd spool it out and look at it, and it'd be all out of focus. Or,
You
exposure's
couldn't
wrong.
preview it.
No, and I'm like,
Super 8.
So do it again. Finally, you get it back, and when you figure out how to make things work and exposures, then it was just great. I would take those pieces of film and cut them and little things and tape them together and run them through that little the little screener thing there, and I saw a scene and it came together, and I stretched it out. I added more to it, and it was like a moment where I went, it was an epiphany. I know how to do this. This is how you do it. And I had read books and magazines and stuff, but when you actually physically do it, it's that thing where you just get it,
Right.
and the life changes. And I'm like, okay, I'm on the path. I was pretty young, but that was really the start. Was actually doing it with Super 8 and seeing it. Of course, a lot of people go, well, what's Super 8? Well,
Super 8, yeah.
Super 8 film, but
That's the way.
that
it
was really the start.
I remember messing around with Super 8 cameras. We didn't make movies; we just shot ourselves on Super 8.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny, was it Super 8 for you? Did you remember your first little?
Yeah, like I did a stop motion on Super 8.
Cool.
But then later on, because my dad worked for a television station, I was able to get on a CP16 when I was like 12. And just mess with
Bragger.
I'll be the millennial. I only knew about Super 8 because remember that movie that came out called Super 8?
Yeah,
right.
So I saw that and I was like, oh, that's tight. And then I had a new appreciation for it.
Your first experience with probably shooting anything was probably with a VHS camera.
Yeah,
right?
my dad had a VHS. My sister was going to be the next big volleyball athlete, so he bought a VCR hand recorder to watch her to film her volleyball games. And then during the off season, I would just dick around with Stop and Go or scaring my sisters or whatever.
Stop motion was a big influence. The Ray Harryhausen movies, and
Right.
I did that. I wanted a camera. And I finally got a great one from Christmas. My parents finally got me that GF Super 8 movie camera, and had a single frame button on it, so I could finally do stop motion. And again, as a kid growing up, you watch these movies and the Sinbad movies and things, and then when you could actually recreate things like that. It just gave me a boost that I couldn't get anywhere. And so my first thought was, I don't need to go to school. I'm just going to get cameras and get equipment and just go do it. And that's kind of what I did, really. And then I moved up to 16 millimeter and got a Bolex, and it kind of just took off from there.
Learn by doing.
That was it, yeah.
And
we didn't have the money to go to college. We had 5 brothers and sisters.
Just while we're talking about film and
it
stuff.
worked.
So, but what's the stuff that like Quentin Tarantino and what's the vintage stuff that people are like kind of going back to as using great analog film technology? Is it some of that stuff, or is it before or after that?
You mean in regards to what?
Just like using film, like making films and things.
There's an aesthetic to film. I know that when it was precious, when I would get a roll of film, that's what you had. You made damn sure what you shot was what you wanted, so you would rehearse it and you do it once or twice, and it forced you to accept what you did.
Right.
With digital, the first time I got to shoot a movie with digital, I didn't have to yell cut.
No.
I just backed up and kept going, and I realized every time I would call cut, the world would stop, the clock would tick, everybody would come in and change. You'd run out of time, so I wouldn't yell cut. I just let it roll. Well, of course, the editors like, you got 9 hours to sit through, but the actors loved it because they just backed up and went it again, back up to it again. So I don't know. I think there's that aesthetic with film, and you physically have something, and it forces everybody to go, no, that's it. It is happening right there, and there's only so much of this film stock.
It's almost
It
live.
really, it forces you to be creative.
I've had some performances shot on film, and it's like,
It's different.
when you're watching the director just grimace like, all right, one more, but let's get it right this time.
I made the switch to say it didn't matter for me anymore when I had to do a movie. I did a movie for a company called The Asylum, who's famous for Sharknado and all those creature features. Well, I did a movie called Jolly Roger, Massacre at Cutter's Cove, and it was it was a script we wrote.
I just love the titles, man.
And my writing producing partner Jeff Miller, he came up with the idea, and we wrote the script, and we sold it at The Asylum, and I had a movie project fall through, a bigger movie, and I'm like, I don't got a movie to make now, and they're like, well, how about you direct this for $5, and so I took the challenge. They go, but you're only going to get 9 days. I'm like, I'll do it, and I'll show you guys how we make movies. Well, I got to shoot on 35, with short ends. So you'd get a can that said 200 feet. Well, it only had 80 feet in it.
Right.
So we were constantly rolling out. So that whole time I was shooting, I'd go through take would roll out in the middle of a take. So I couldn't wait to get away from film and get into the digital realm to where I could get it done and have multiple cameras and whatnot from a cost standpoint. So once digital took over and it looks great and you can do great things with it, you still have to light. There's no shortcut there.
Yeah.
But the money savings is huge.
And
You shoot your own stuff though, Gary, right? Did you shoot cell block? No.
I did some of it, but mainly I bring in cameramen, DPs, and stuff. I'll operate from time to time or shoot inserts, but I like to have that team in there.
Okay.
Which brings me over to Chris, because you've been shooting film since you were a kid, obviously, with the Super 8 camera, and you're still shooting films. You haven't always been an actor.
No.
It's
Professional wrestler.
professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Are we talking like WW?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. I started off when I was 20. I went to a place called the Monster Factory, which was in Marion, Ohio.
What is the Monster Factory?
It's a pro wrestling school.
It's a school.
Yeah. And they produced the likes of Lex Luger,
Okay.
Bam Bam Bigelow, Raven, Sting, some of the bigger name guys.
And you
But there
were-
was a school in Maryland, one in Pensacola, Florida, and then one in Marion, Ohio, and I was Johnny Paradise.
Nice.
I was the man from Fantasy Island, every man's nightmare, every woman's dream.
Good guy or bad guy?
Oh, I was the bad guy.
Yeah.
By
You're
a bad
far. And I had long blonde hair, and
Oh,
I was
man.
a
They call it a heel in
A
wrestling.
heel, exactly. There's a TV show on Stars right now called Heels, and the guy that plays Green Arrow, Adam something, is with the star in it, and they use a lot of the wrestlers as stunt guys. And hopefully, I've been talking to the stunt coordinator, who is a professional wrestler by the name of Hawk, and hopefully, I get on season 2.
Cool.
So
That'd be awesome.
That'd be nice.
yeah,
That'd be great.
but I'm professional wrestler for 28 years. And I've worked with the likes of
Wow.
The Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, The Undertaker. Some of my stuff's on YouTube. Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker's on YouTube. I just got my rear end kicked. But like I said, it was an experience because I was in front of 30,000 people.
Sure.
Yeah.
How's your joints, man? 28 years.
I got to get a hip replacement. Both shoulders are bad. And now I'm a stunt guy. So, I mean, it just gets worse. But in 2014, I had a brain tumor due to all the head injuries that I got through the wrestling world. I had a softball-sized brain tumor over my right eye. And I got out of that, and the doctor told me that the wrestling world was done. And I said, well, can I do stunt work? Because a buddy of mine out in California is a stuntman. He's been a stuntman for years. He said, you've been a stuntman for 28 years. You do choreographed fight scenes.
Right.
You're more versed in choreographed fight scenes than anybody in the stunt business, really.
Yep.
And he goes, you might as well do that because everything is safety, safety, safety.
Yeah.
I mean, when we worked on Death Block, it took us about 3 hours to shoot that fight scene. But Gary made sure that the mats were down, we had our pads on, that when we hit the ground, we can always speed the film up to make it look like you're hitting it far harder. Everything's at 50%. And then what we do is we rehearse it. And then he looks at it on screen, on film, and sees what he likes. And what he doesn't like, we go back, we redo it, and then we pick it up a little bit. And we first, like the first time we practice it or shoot it, we shoot it about 50%. And then we do it at 75%. And then we do it at 100%. We really go at it. But it's blocked into certain sections. So what you see on screen is probably 5 or 6 different pieces of the fight scene. And then Gary and his magician, because he's a magician, puts it all together, and it just goes so smooth.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
I watched the Gary sent us the clip of the bullpen fight.
Right.
And it just looks like Gary said, all right, I really want you guys just to, kick each other's ass.
Right.
And I'll
Go.
film it.
Yeah.
Let's go. I mean, it looks great. It looks great.
the thing that I find different between, there's two things in professional wrestling and then being a stuntman is, in professional wrestling, there's a lot of ego. So
No.
it's about putting yourself over.
Right.
In the stunt business, it's a dance. You work hand in hand to make the movie look better. Now, on a professional wrestling circuit, and when you're in the ring, you got about 20, 30,000 people. You got to sell it just as good for the person in the last row as you do in the front or in the first row. On film, you have a screen about that big. You can't step outside the frame. So you got to work on your footwork. You got to work on how to throw punches so that you don't go out of frame and that you sell it too. So it's a different world, and it took a lot to get used to, but with help of guys that are versed in the business like Gary and then Rick Fike up in Cleveland, who's a stunt guy in Cleveland, they worked with me, and I'm not perfect, but I'm getting there.
Are you digging it?
I'm getting there.
You
Slowly,
digging it?
sure. Oh, I love
You're
it.
having fun.
I'm having a blast,
fun.
and I wouldn't do anything else in the world.
Yeah,
That's
right
awesome.
now, especially to go from that career to this,
Right.
and still at the same time still use your skill set.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty awesome.
Exactly.
Your character in Death Block 13 is Bunyan.
Yes.
Which is, I said earlier, an homage to another Gary Jones film, Axe Giant,
The Wrath.
The Wrath of Paul Bunyan.
The Wrath of Paul Bunyan, and
I played Paul Bunyan. Exactly.
But
So the
so,
different, the
so
cool
the name
thing
Bunyan was on purpose to give him that name.
Yeah, it was. Well, when I was writing the script for Death Block, I had the idea for part for Chris in it, and I'm writing away, and I like to pick a name. You get a name for a character quickly when you're writing, and I just put Bunyan down. I'm like, okay, Chris is Bunyan, and I thought I'll change it later. And as I kept going, I'm like, well, no, he's Bunyan. And as I was writing it, and I was writing it for Chris, and with that character in mind, I'm hearing Chris talk and do his Johnny Paradise and his ramblings and stuff, and I'm writing it that way, and I'm like, well, it's going to be Bunyan now. He's
Yeah,
going to stay Bunyan.
It's going to stay Bunyan.
And then of course I'm thinking, and if this movie is more successful than Axe Giant, then people might go buy Axe Giant again, and we can get
see
some more
Bunyan.
money.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Axe Giant was wonderfully ridiculous.
it is totally fun. But it's the homage, and
It was.
it's
It
really Chris's character in Death Block. As I was writing it, I'm like, okay, not to give it away, but it's Chris. Chris is playing his whole wrestling thing. It's about boisterous and being loud and proud. And the bully and talking things down and being like the king of the cell block. But you don't necessarily have to prove it all the time.
Right.
So I used it as a kind of a starting
But
point.
it felt like your character was slightly vulnerable because it was kind of a twitchy character where it had a couple of ticks, I thought, that made you feel vulnerable. So
But there's a couple scenes in there that which I won't give anything away, that if you would come watch me wrestle, you would think I would be back in the ring. So it was really natural to me.
Gotcha.
I read the script, but I didn't really have to rehearse my lines because it's everything I say. I would use a lot of nursery rhyme stuff when my wrestling world. I get on the microphone and I talk all kinds of trash. Well, in the movie, you can hear me because I'm louder. I might not be in the scene, but you hear me in the background just talking all kinds of trash. And it got over really well because we screened it twice. And when my part comes up, there's a lot of laughter because there's a lot of the people that came to the screenings that are friends of mine that have been to the wrestling shows. And it's the exact same character as in the wrestling world.
So you're paying an homage to Johnny Paradise.
In a way.
And the Bunyan is paying an homage to Axe Giant.
Yeah.
And let's get down to something that we've been just bouncing all over the place. Escape from Death Block 13. Let's talk about the basic premise of this film and what it's about, because we know it's in prison. We know it's obviously a death block. And we know someone's trying to get out of it.
Exactly.
And for the record, it's not one of 13s in a film series. It's the first one.
No,
It's the first one.
That's
the first one.
13.
There isn't 12 other films.
Okay. All right.
But we hope to work backwards to make all of
That's
this.
hysterical. All right,
But-
so the basic premise for Escape from Death Block 13.
The basic premise was I had an idea that I wanted to do an escape movie from the prison, because we have the Shawshank prison there, the reformatory. And I've been there 100 times, and I'm like, man, I got to use this place. You know, it's $1 million movie set. It's just right here. And I wanted to do an action movie, and I wanted to basically do a throwback action movie, a retro movie. I grew up on the Bronson movies, The Getaway, Mr. Majestic, Emperor of the North Pole, you know, with Lee Marvin and
Great movie.
Borgnine. I love those movies. And those movies, they were simple. It was about a code of honor. If you did a handshake deal, you honored the deal. You know, it was simplicity. It wasn't about the technology. And I wanted to do a movie like that and get away from cell phones and all the other crap that, you know, all the movies are about.
So basically, you well, as I said earlier, you went back to the well of what you watched when you were a kid and loved, and now I want to make my movie.
That's it. Yeah, I used to get the back in the day, we'd have a TV guide you'd get on a Sunday, Sunday. I'd read the TV guide, I'd highlight it all, and at dinner during the week, my dad would go, Gary, what's on Wednesday night at 10? I go, oh, Wednesday night at 10 is Mr. Majestic. All right. Battle of the Bulge is on Friday. So I knew all the movies, and that's how we watched our stuff. So this movie, I wanted to do a throwback to those movies, a retro action movie using that prison. And so I came up with the premise for it. And I had a character in there that I had in mind. It was going to be a guy who comes from down south to here and, to collect this debt. Well, I met Robert Bronzi.
Robert Bronzi.
Robert Kovacs.
Robert Kovacs, who uncannily looks a lot like one of your heroes,
Charles Bronson. So I get this call from my buddy Jeff Miller, who was my partner in Axe Giant. He said, hey, I'm doing this movie in California called Death Kiss, which is a ripoff of Death Wish. We got this actor, looks like Charles Bronson. He sends me a picture. I go, you can't do that, man. That's a cheat. That's such a ripoff. People will not watch. You can't do it. He goes, no, it's going to be great. It's going to be fine. And I go, dude, it's a hit and run. I mean, it's a gag. So he asked me if I wanted to help him on it. And I said, oh, we'll see, And I thought about it, and I'm like, Death Kiss may be a gag, right? Because it's Death Wish.
Sure.
But no, this is a good idea. This guy, Robert Kovacs can get me that little piece of the past. People of our generation will see it, and it'll remind them of those great movies. So I thought, I got to put him in this action movie. I got to get Robert Kovacs, Bronzi Kovacs, in this movie. It's going to get me that throwback I want. It also has the gimmick that he looks like Bronson, and people will talk about it. People have to talk about your product.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Publicity's publicity.
Yeah, no matter what they're saying.
Yeah. So, I had a script, and I wrote the script really quick, and I knew kind of what I wanted to go with it. And I had the character from down south. I go, well, but I'm going to put Bronzi in it. So I went to Texas Frightmare Festival to meet him, because we were premiering Death Kiss there, which I helped my partner Jeff work on. And I met Bronzi, and we sat in a bar, and I said, hey, I want you to do this part. And I had him read some lines I wrote, and his English wasn't that good, but, we were kind of getting there.
Where's he from?
He's from Hungary. So he's got this Hungarian accent and everything. And I told him what the part was all about. And so I had him read lines, and I went, you know what? If you want to do this, I'd like you to do this movie. And I said, look, let's do a deal. So we had drinks. We made a handshake deal. Had a couple of whiskeys, and I said, you know what? I'm going to rewrite this. The character now comes from Hungary to collect the debt. So I decided I'll play Bronzi exactly who he is. I made him Hungarian, coming here to collect the debt. Very simple thing. I'm coming to collect the death benefit for my brother's family. He died here. You owe the money. It's in the contract. Pay the money. And if they would have paid the money, everything would be great.
But they didn't.
They didn't. So
they didn't.
And I thought, it actually worked great for the movie, because I think audiences can get into that when a foreigner from another country comes over, who, not that they're slow, but it's more about the person. It's more about code of honor, simple stuff. Hey,
family,
everything. So it worked.
Leads into the clip that we have, the big boss.
Exactly.
Which, for those of you listening on audio, you're going to miss out the clip. So go to YouTube, because here it is.
Easy now. Take it easy. Are you okay?
You shot me, you asshole!
I don't want any more trouble here.
One move. One move and I'll paint the floor with your pea brains all over it. You hear me? Get down. Slide down nice and easy. Nice and easy. Don't move. Don't you fucking move. Slide the gun. Slide the gun.
I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want the money and I will leave.
Yeah, you'll leave. You just want the money and you'll leave, huh? Now you'll leave. Fuck. I need a new crew.
Yeah, so I meet Bronzi. We make this deal, and we do a handshake deal to do 3 movies, and he's gonna play this part. So I said, look, I'm gonna send you this dialogue, but I want you to read through it and then give me a call. And then so we started talking, and basically I took all my dialogue and had him read it back to me, and of course he changes it. He drops a word, he adds a word, and I rewrote it so that it would totally work for the way he would talk. Completely rewrote his part. It didn't take long, really. But as soon as I made the shift, everything started to fall into place with the story. And now I could believe that the guy would just come here to get the money and, hey, I got to get on a plane tomorrow. Give me the cash.
So how's he end up going to prison?
Well, I'll give it away.
You're not going to give it away.
No, you get the gist. So he comes to collect the debt, basically. And he, unfortunately, what he's collecting the debt from is a guy who runs a recycling company who is Nicholas Turturro, who plays Renda.
Yeah, you gotta get a good fun cast. Of
and Renda actually is another homage, by the way. It's Frank Renda from Mr. Majestic.
There you go.
So everything's connected, but it turns out the mob runs the recycling company, and of course they're not going to give him his money, or maybe they will. They give him some, but maybe they don't give him all his money. So that's how the movie takes off, and it was all a device to get him into prison, wrongly accused, and while he's in there, he discovers the bigger issue, the bigger problems, and what happened to his brother, and then connecting all the dots. And the people who run the prison, they're a little connected too. All right. So we got good guys and bad guys.
You're telling me there's corruption throughout this entire
corruption everywhere. Hey, the worst guy in cell block 13 is probably the most innocent guy out there compared to all the guards and everybody else. So
always got to watch the innocent look.
You'll like it. It's a good flip on everything. And
well, John, I was supposed to see it with John Whitney, and unfortunately some things happened that I couldn't go. But John said it was just action from start to finish. It was just
it was a fun ride, especially in the third act.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, that's the thing I always try to, the movie started a certain way. I wanted to do a throwback action movie and a real gutsy, just straight, drama thing. No, I wasn't going to go for camp or giant monsters or anything. This was a different animal. And then when I started the project, we started the movie we didn't have all our financing, and I knew I would be shooting it in a couple of different parts. And I knew I had the prison for about a week for the first leg of the shoot. So once we started shooting, had all these characters and we had all the wrestlers and everybody's, all these parts, it grew. And I just saw the potential, and I'm like, I'm going to shortchange this if I don't go down this other path. So the movie got twice as big, twice as expensive, twice everything. And then I went, if I'm going this way, if I'm going this route, it has to be a roller coaster, because all the great movies that I loved growing up always ended up taking you down a path, and each section topped the last. And when you got to that last part of the movie, it was a roller coaster. So you have the two things I always love with a movie. There's the residual effect, and there's like the first 5 minutes. So if you walk in a movie in 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes, you know whether you're going to stay or not, right? Whether you're going to watch it or walk out. When you leave a movie, are you going to tell someone they got to see it?
You got to see this movie.
And so I always use, that's my MO. Get them in and make sure you get enough interest to keep them. But then when they leave that theater, doesn't matter whether you fumble it, you fumble the game. if you go out in a big way and you blow up the bridge on the River Kwai, you're going to tell somebody about it,
Right.
and they're going to want to see that.
So
So that's what I've been doing ever since.
So there's stuff in this Escape from Death Block 13 that people are going to be
I think so.
buzzing about. And
I
saying,
think so.
You got to go, if for no other reason, just to see this.
Yes.
Or
Yeah, right.
that, or whatever the case
Well,
might be.
you know, I took it down a path from the story being very straight to her. I wasn't going to go camping. I didn't want to go in a certain direction. However, with all these crazy characters, the humor creeped in. The over-the-topness started to come in, and I couldn't deny it. It had to go that. I mean, I could have not gone down that path, but I think the audience would have been cheated because it does a turn and it needs to go where it goes.
If you're going to go on a roller coaster, you want it to be a
You
really
go.
exciting roller
You
coaster.
go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know?
And I wanted to pull out the stops, and it worked with Axe Giant where we pulled out the stops at the end. It just became a roller coaster of Sci-Fi Channel said when they bought that Axe Giant, they go, wow, you got 45 minutes of action in the last 45 minutes of the movie's action. I go, yeah. And they bought it, and I'm like, I got to remember that.
Right.
Your last 45 minutes have got to rock.
So, is this your second film with Gary, or have you done other stuff with it?
Second with Gary. I've done probably about 28, 29 films.
That you've been involved in?
Yeah,
a lot of work.
From stunt work to acting. I just was working on a project up in, did some stunt work on a project in Cleveland called White Noise.
Oh yeah,
Adam Driver.
and Don the Don DeLulla book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
was on
auditioned
there.
for that movie.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I didn't get it, obviously.
I auditioned for.
So
a
you guys are
character-
shooting it, huh?
Hey, what's your call time?
I guess I didn't get it.
I did about 14 days of stunt work up there. So I mean,
We'll call you.
Yeah, right.
You've been down that road.
I've been that road for sure.
Watch
Yeah.
that phone ring.
I'm very curious about that movie because it's a very strange book.
it's when we go off air, I'll tell you some things about what went on, and it's pretty wild.
I bet.
And then I got a movie coming out the same day as Death Block comes out, November 12th, called Red Notice with Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
And I play a Russian prison guard. They shot that down in Atlanta.
Nice.
I've heard good things about that too.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Action,
So
yeah.
a lot of action in it.
You're getting quality work, man.
Yeah,
That's great.
I did.
and then every now and then he works with me.
well, you know what though? And I was telling Gary on the way down.
I love a writer-director. I love a writer-director who's self-deprecating.
Yeah, I was telling Gary on the way down. I've been in the acting business now for about 10 years, and it's nice to work on the big budget movies. But you sit around and wait, and it gets to be a pain in the ass.
And then you cash that check, it's
Right.
terrible.
Well, you know, don't get me wrong. The money's nice because,
sure.
But when you work on a lower budget movie,
You're contributing something.
you're contributing. You have a lot more involvement.
Yep.
I can actually go on set and watch the other actors and learn from other actors.
Sure.
Where on a big budget set, when they're shooting, you can't go anywhere near it. So I can't go and see what makes Adam Driver. But when I go and on Gary's movie, I can sit there next to Gary and watch Bronzi become Bronzi. And I can see what little quirks he has that I may be able to use in my acting career to make my acting career a little bit better. We just worked on a project down in Texas where I got to work with Michael Madsen.
Okay.
And unbelievable. It was one of the best things I ever did because Michael Madsen, we actually had a lot of dialogue and we actually had not a fight scene, but an argument in the middle of it. And so I fed off him, he fed off me. And Gary did the directing on it. And Gary comes up to me and says, I know it's Michael Madsen, but just go and play your part and be your character. Don't worry about line for line. Feel it.
Right.
And I got right in his face and I gave him a rash of shit. But it felt good because a lot of directors don't allow you to do that. They want you to do word for word because it's their word and that's the way they want it. So sometimes it just doesn't feel right. Where if I can freelance it and do what I feel is best, but the same meaning comes out, I feel a lot better about my character and about the part that I play.
Yeah.
But
Johnny's that way.
With the low budget stuff, I wanted to throw that in with you. So on Death Block, when I was writing it, I knew we were going to have all these inmates and stuff, and so I talked to Chris, and it's like, hey, get all the ASWA wrestlers, get all the wrestlers in there. Every one of them's a character.
Right.
They do performance already,
Right.
and they can do stunts and action.
Right.
I don't have to double anyway, so I'm getting this win. So actually, with Chris is an associate producer on the movie. I'm like, Chris, you got to come in at the beginning. You're going to do more than just act.
Sure.
I need you to get to these guys. We got to work out all this deal. We got to work the fights out. Hey, I need a deal for food. So in the independent, lower budget movies, you get to actually make them and not
You
just
become
sit on
an
the
actor.
sidelines.
And then the nice thing about it is, not only do I get to see it from an actor's point of view, but I get to see it from a producer's point of view.
Yeah.
I get to stand behind the camera and watch Gary do his thing. So I get to see it from a director's point of view, which gives me more of an appreciation as an actor of what happens behind scenes.
Yeah, when you're wearing different hats, you definitely.
Yeah, because you got to look at it this way. Stunt may not be your entire future.
Sure.
You may want to branch off into being a producer.
Exactly.
And you're
Exactly.
learning from an independent guy here, man.
So
He knows how to do it.
I went to a friend of mine. His name's Chris Barnes. He's a stunt coordinator, and he did the stunt coordinating on a Hulu movie called Only Murders in the Building with Steve Martin. And
I'm watching it right now.
I did some stunt driving in
Nice.
it. But he's a good buddy of mine, so he said, hey, I want you to come to a stunt coordinating meeting with me and the producers and the director. So I got to sit in, but I sat in the back and I just listened to what they discussed on a big Disney project, and it was kind of overwhelming. And I told him, hey, I appreciate you letting me sit in on this and kind of learn. But like Gary tells me, he goes, it's all about connections and who you meet and how you come across. So when I go, I mean, the crazy thing is when I was on Red Notice, when Dwayne Johnson walks on set, he goes around and shakes everybody's hand. If you're an extra, if you're a food catering person, whatever, because he realizes if it wasn't for everybody working as a unit, his movies wouldn't get made. And he wouldn't be living in that multi-million-dollar house. And he wouldn't be able to drive that multi-million-dollar car.
Well, he's a team player. He comes from team sports. He understands.
Exactly. And it's just
He's a
overwhelming.
wrestler, from wrestling, so
Exactly.
he knows the drill. Yeah.
So it's like you have to come off, and I'm one to talk. I love to talk, and I'm loud as hell. But when I'm on a movie set, I keep my mouth shut. My pro wrestling trainer always told me, keep your mouth shut and keep your ears open and listen and learn. It's not about what you say. It's about what you learn when you're on set, because it'll make you a better person at the end of the day. So
Cool. Very cool.
True.
Yeah, well, God bless, man.
Right.
The resume continues to grow.
yeah.
I got
And don't forget me when you get that multi-million-dollar home.
That's right. Don't worry.
Right.
Don't
Don't
worry.
worry about it.
Take Gary's
Call your
phone calls,
assistant.
please.
Call my assistant.
Call your assistant.
Who are you?
Can we do lunch?
So, Gary, let me ask you a question, and you think about it for a second. You've made how many features now that you've written and directed?
I wanted to say 13. I was wishing it was 13, but it's 12.
It's 12.
It's 12.
Well, that's a lot. And,
Yeah.
and you've worked on dozens more over the
Oh,
years.
yes. A lot of movies in different capacities.
In different capacities.
Produced for friends, other movies. and
But
things.
in respects to the 12, do you like the movies you make, or do you make movies you like?
That's a good question.
Well, I definitely make movies I like,
Okay.
because you just can't. If you don't, you can't do a good job if you don't like it. So it's I make movies I'd like to see, make movies I like, and I like most of them after the fact. There's issues from all the movies. I don't necessarily get to produce them all, but I'm working for other people making my movies or movies that I direct. But yeah, it's a good question. It's I often wondered, it's like, what's the next one going to be? And I have dozens of ideas, and it's weird. It's like if someone was today say, okay, I have $1 million, you're ready to go. What are you going to do next? It's kind of hard sometimes to pick, because you're always wondering, like, it's never easy. It's always a hard choice which one to do. It takes a lot of work to get it done, and you have to invest so much in it and get ready to get your heart broken, because just so many obstacles all the way down the line. Even once it's done and everyone loves it, then there's the big obstacle: will anybody pay for it?
Right.
Or will the distributor actually pay you the money they owe you for it? It's like too many things. So yeah, I make movies I love, I guess, is the answer, right?
If somebody said $1 million for a movie, I would say, do you want to make 2 movies for $500,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to say that all the time, and my wife goes, "Yeah, but why don't you just do one and get paid for it that time? I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. How about getting paid a decent rate next
So
time?
do you look at this? Do you look at what you do as a business, or do you look at it as an art?
Boy, and there's the good question, because I looked at it as I wanted it to be. I saw it as a business when I got in. I'm like, this is a business, but I saw the art in it. I wanted to make good product. You don't want to make stinkers. You want to make good stuff. I used to watch the Academy Awards and thought, wouldn't it be great to be up there if I was worthy and made something good enough to be up there to accept it for?
Which is where I'm kind of going down this little path. So continue, my friend.
So the art. So that's the interesting thing. So I realized pretty early on that I have to. I'm in commercial art.
It's a good way to put it.
It's great.
If I make something commercial and makes them money, they may give me money to make art that may not make money.
Right.
So it's like one for me, one for them. And early on, I was like, okay, I've got to knock this out of the park for these producers. They're hiring me to direct this movie. It's going to be sci-fi, whatever it is. If they make money, they will allow me to make another movie, and maybe I'll get to make one of my ideas, one that I really want to make. And every movie I've taken as a hired gun as a director, they'll tell me what the project is, and if I think, the script doesn't sound very good, but I need the job, right? And I have a family, so it's a job.
It's a business.
So then I take it and I go, before I open that script, I'm like, oh, please, I hope there's something here I can get behind, because I can't just phone it in. You can't do it. I can't do it. So I open the script and like, okay, I can get behind that. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I could do something with that. Or that's kind of similar. I've seen that before. Maybe we can rewrite that. So I always try to look at it fresh and go, what can I do with this? To make it me be the one that's the biggest fan of it, because I have to pour it all out there and convince people. And so I'm in commercial art. And if I can make money, then I can go make art that if nobody sees it, great. But I never wanted to just make something for me. I wanted to sit in the back of the theater and listen to the audience, just have a great time. That was never for me. I can just do that right now. I can go shoot something and put it on the TV, sit back with a whiskey and go, isn't that great?
A little mental semester.
That's fine.
I think we feel that way a little bit about radio.
A little bit.
Like when I first started, I was gonna be the next Orson Welles or whatever, right? And then I got a job working for B96 in Chicago, and it was Justin Bieber and Katy Perry, and I loathed it, but I needed the job. But while I was there, I gained a whole new appreciation for the industry and and for what it is. And Sunny 95 is great, but it's not the most artistic.
I don't know. What are you saying?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. What are you saying?
But we make fun with the tools that we have, and we do the best we can. And we have a lot of fun doing it.
And again, it goes back to like Death Block 13. That's that code of honor. Right. If somebody hires you to do a job and you agree to do it for $1 and you don't give them 100%, you failed.
You failed.
And so one big thing I did learn also along the way, which I kind of discovered was, I remember getting my driver's license and driving to see Jaws when it first came out. So that dates me, right?
Right.
I'm sitting there watching Jaws. It was so great, I didn't get out of the seat. I sat there, the theater emptied out, it filled back up. They didn't kick me out, and I watched it again. And I drove home. I don't know how I drove home. I told my mom the whole movie, every shot, every cut. Mm-hmm. I said, Spielberg's 26, 27, I can do this. I can do it. I don't have to be an old fart with a pipe, like all the guys I'd see, and all the background
John
stuff.
Ford.
Yeah. And I thought, I could do it. I made a mistake early on. I told everybody, if I don't make it by the time I'm 27, I'll leave show business.
Oh, wow.
I won't do it.
Okay.
So I get married and I tell my wife, if I don't make it by the time I'm 30 making movies, I'll quit and I'll go back to the factory.
Yeah.
Every couple of years I have to move the bar.
You have to move the bar a little bit, sure.
I realized early on, stupidly, I'll have Spielberg's career. No. I'll have Gary Jones's career.
Mm-hmm. You have Gary Jones's
career. If I don't do what I do, if I don't find out what I do good and stick with that, I can't be those other people.
But you did TV early on as
Yeah.
well.
I did, yeah.
So what did you learn from TV? You went to New Zealand. You worked on Xena, I
Yeah,
believe.
I learned a ton.
Hercules,
I
yeah.
did my first movie, Mosquito.
Yeah.
Figured out how to make a movie, stumbling through that movie,
Right.
and we sold it for $1 million, which we didn't get, but another story. But then I went right into TV, and I got on a show called Xena Warrior Princess. They had very little money. It was an offshoot of Hercules. They shot on 16 millimeter, which was cool. And we had this group of people in New Zealand that hadn't really done much. All the talented people were on Hercules. I had all the New Zealand crew.
But
Well-
what was Zoe Bell like? Seriously.
And I never worked
love
with Zoe.
Zoe Bell.
I
Oh,
never worked
bummer.
with her because I worked with Xena's first stunt double,
Oh,
Jerry
okay.
Jacobson, who
Okay.
nobody talks about. But she was on for the first 3 or 4 seasons.
Nice.
That's where I started.
And there you go. The first 3 or 4 seasons. That had a good run.
Yeah, I think they did 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But what I learned on TV really quickly was, as a director, you don't get the creative input you'd like as a film director. In TV, the writers and the producers control it and run it, and the actors run it.
So your job is to move it along.
You move it along. Now you can go, I'd like to do this, I like to do that. But the DP goes, no, she looks better in the light this way, so we're going to shoot this direction. Okay, we're shooting this direction then. Yeah. So you are moving things around.
Sure.
You're the fall guy is what you really are. If you don't make it, if the day doesn't get done, you get behind schedules, something goes wrong, it doesn't cut, it's your fault.
Yeah, don't be that guy, right?
No. So as a director, TV is great because you have to move quick. You got to think on your feet. You've got to make decisions, and you have to acquiesce power to other people and do it without, embarrassing yourself. But I also learned to not like television back then because it squelched what I wanted to do.
Sure.
But I made good money, and I figured out how do I make it the best it could be. Again, it was the commercial side. TV's way different today. I think some of the best stuff's going on in TV.
Oh, we've had that conversation
And so-
on previous podcasts. Yeah, some of the best stuff right now is
the best stuff going.
is streaming on TV, which is also a good thing for Death Block because streaming
Exactly,
is huge right
exactly.
now. That's the way a lot of people are getting their cinema products these days is through streaming.
Yeah, that's great.
And I look at some of the other films that you did, and I'm not poking fun. I'm just noticing a theme because it leads to my other question, which is a serious question. But you got Axe Giant, which, like I said, was wonderfully ridiculous. I enjoyed that film. It was like I'm watching a movie about Paul Bunyan.
We made that movie. Jeff Miller and I, we made that movie by design. We said we need to sell this to the Sci-Fi Channel to make this make sense.
Yeah.
And we said, what's the Sci-Fi Channel formula besides the crazy, goofy, sometimes not very good VFX and the storylines and the monster every 15 minutes, right?
Right.
And we followed a basic path.
And it
with
worked.
that.
It
We
worked.
sold it to him.
Boogeyman 3,
Our friend
Spiders.
Christina Koff in Axe
Yeah,
Giant, by the way.
our own Christina Kopp is in that.
She was, yeah.
Boogeyman 3, Spiders, Death Swamp, Mosquito, which I guess is one of the most pirated films.
I mean, it's. I'll probably go home tonight and go on YouTube and have to shut down 2 or 3 people that have already posted it and probably had it up for a few months and getting thousands of views. I've shut the movie down. I go on YouTube and people will just post the movie and on their pages. And I've actually gone on pages where there was commercials in the movie.
Somebody's making money.
So, people do their monetizing and up it goes. And I've been shutting it down, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years maybe. And it's
like a full-time job.
YouTube won't answer me, but they make me fill out every form and my underwear size and my copyright.
Wow.
And then they take the movie down off the person's platform. 2 weeks later, it's up on 10 more. And I'm thinking, but I can't upload Star Wars. I can't upload the Avengers. They won't let me do that. But why do they let me upload Mosquito?
Why? What's your answer?
I think it's pretty simple economics. I mean, you deal with Disney, you deal with Marvel and YouTube. They're all big corporations.
Right.
They police each other. But, look at all the product below those. 99% of the product out there is not Marvel.
Right.
It's either independent films, low budget movies, and just tons and tons of other various level movies. So it's under their radar.
Gotcha.
really.
You don't have a big lawyer. That's what they look at.
You can't-
Well,
I'm
yes.
curious about the movie.
Yes.
Why is Mosquito this like highly sought after flick? And
Well,
why don't you cash in on it?
And
Have you posted it?
So here's the thing. So I think part of it is the first time I went on YouTube and saw it up there, somebody had it up for 3 or 4 years or whatever it was, and they had something like 300,000 hits. Well, then I started looking into the YouTube thing. If you monetize, you can make money. I'm like, what? I'm going, holy shit, these people are making money off my movie.
Right.
And there's commercials. How come YouTube's not sending us a check, So I started taking it to figure it out. I started taking it down, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe because I keep taking it down all these years, people want it more. They put it back up. So we basically, we put out the 20th anniversary Blu-ray, all the special making of back in 2015. And that was a way to circumvent, I thought, well, people won't want the old version, which is crappy. And of course, then they pirate this new version, put that up too. But one of my angles is you know what I got to do? Basically, I got to get a hold of YouTube and say, hey, look, why don't you guys, let's be a partnership. You put Mosquito up on YouTube for a $3 rental and give me $1 or whatever that deal is, and you police it and don't let anybody else put it up, and we can make some money.
I think he also wants to know what the movie's
Yeah,
about.
come on.
Mosquito?
Is it like The Fly?
No, it's about giant killer, 6-foot giant killer
Nice.
mosquito.
I've seen it. I went to Crestline and watched it with Phil.
Tight.
Giant mosquitoes. It's a classic. I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
it's
throw.
classic.
It's a throwback to the giant bug movies
fun.
of the 50s.
Once
and
again,
alien spaceship
back
crashes.
to your childhood.
Alien spaceship crashes. Mosquito lands on an alien, drinks the blood from an alien, and grows into a giant radiated mosquito.
And that
there's
happens
your
all the
story.
time. That's how
It's
how-
simple.
it's
Practical
exactly
and
the way it
reasonable,
goes.
yeah.
I got one more question for each of you, then we'll get some details about where you can see Escape from Death Block 13. My last question for you, at least I think it'll be the last question. Sometimes.
Well, I got one too, unless you ask my question. Do you want me to ask my
Well,
question?
ask your question too, because I would like to ask my last
But
question.
what if it's the same question?
I would like my last question
to be the last
to
question?
be the last question.
But what if it's the same question? Will I be stealing your last question?
It could be
Thunder?
happen, and then there'll be a fight, and then he can tell us how to do it.
As long as I
throw a
win.
punch.
As long as I win. So for people who are listening outside of Ohio, the Ohio Reformatory is where you filmed this, and this is also where Shawshank Redemption is. But it's also one of the most haunted.
He's a Halloween.
Yeah, I'm a
nut.
Halloween nut. Halloween. It's the most haunted building in the state. Blah blah blah. Sure. So, and you guys live up there. So, I guess what was it like filming? Because I assume any director would be like, "Whoa, this was actually part. It was a character in the film. Blah blah blah." How was?
You've always heard that,
yeah, right. Yeah. How was it working and filming in this infamous location?
Well, it was actually like a character in the film. I saw. No, actually, it was. I knew right off the bat. Okay, I'm getting that prison. That's where my movie's going to take place. Because again, it's I've been in there a bunch of times, and I knew I could make it cool. And I thought nobody's ever really used it like Shawshank. No one's really shown the prison. And the Stallone movie was there a year before, and you don't really see much of the prison in that movie. But it was very, very cool. One of the issues with it is I got a really great deal. I did work for the prison. I did all their billboards for their haunts for a few years, all the graphics and stuff. And I did a trade and did some other work for them to get shooting days there because our budget was low.
Sure.
But unfortunately, we had to shoot around the tours. So I couldn't start till 4 in the afternoon. So it was 4 in the afternoon till 4 in the morning. So of course we went from
Long
day to
days.
night to day, and and I'm shooting days, shooting nights, the lights here, the lights there. So it was kind of a crazy nightmare. I didn't see anything ghost wise.
There was a couple. Remember, there would be battery packs. That would,
Well,
that
the
were
batteries
full,
would die,
and they
yeah.
would die, and they would be drained.
But I was kind of like just trying to get through this. It could have been a ghost sitting on my shoulder. I don't know. But
Well, you would
it
see
was crazy.
orbs in the stills,
Sure.
and then I worked security for the haunted prison, and we would do walkthroughs at the end to make sure there was nobody hiding in the cells and stuff. And they always ran the fog machines, and they would have lights. And on the 4th floor, there was somebody walking down in front of the cell blocks, and so I yelled, "Hey, you got to get out of there! You can't be up there!" And went around the corner. And you really couldn't see. All it was like a shadow walking through the fog. And so I went back to the security guy and I said, "Hey, somebody's up on that 4th floor. We need to go. There's nobody up there. Everything's locked." And I said, there's somebody up there, because there was another guy with me. And there's somebody up there, because he saw it too. We went, and the gates to the upstairs were padlocked shut. Now, supposedly, at one time, there was a gentleman in there that caught his mattress on fire back in the 60s or 50s and pulled it on top of himself because he was getting abused by the other inmates and killed himself in there. And they say he comes out every night and he walks that up and down there. Freaked the hell out of me.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, 'cause I don't believe in
Bunyan
all that
wasn't
stuff.
scared of that stuff.
No, if I was in my Bunyan suit, I would have hounded it down with my ass.
It would have been a dead ghost is kind of redundant. But
But I did wonder when after the shooting was over, at the time we're editing and going through the footage. I'm like, I'm going to see something in here. There's going to be something. I thought that'll be kind of cool. I'll use it as a blooper reel or something. I thought there might be something. I'm like, hey, maybe if I get something on here that's really cool, I could sell it and get money to finish this movie. And I looked, and no, it's just all our footage. I
That's
didn't
it.
see anything. That's it. Just our movie.
haunted
No
my
ghosts.
ass. Nothing. Yeah, but then you got
If Bunyan's scared, I don't know, man. That's
So-
awesome. Thank you.
I can't believe that you took my
So
last
your
question.
last question.
Wow,
I have
wow.
another question.
All right, go, man.
That
go,
wasn't
go
your
for it.
question,
No,
was
it was
it?
not my question.
I knew it.
Was there ever a point during production where you said, "How the fuck are we going to finish this goddamn movie"?
No, what's interesting is
Did it go that smooth?
No, it didn't. I mean, and I literally, I only had about a third of the money when I started. I had a window of time because of they were going to do the haunt that was coming up, and they couldn't give me any more time. And I thought I had a little window of time to shoot, and so I didn't have enough money. I didn't have enough prep. Didn't have enough of anything. So what did I do? I do what I always do. Hey, Phil Garrett. Hey, Phil, come on down and help me do this.
Yeah.
Phil jumped aboard and we went and we knocked out, 6-7 days of shooting. Then I was off for a month and I went up to Michigan and produced a Western for my buddy, took all the money he gave me on that movie. And then I came back and we did another couple of weeks of shooting. So I knew it would get done because I've never not finished.
Yeah.
I've never not finished and I've had long stretches. Axe Giant actually started in like 2008 with a few little trailers. Then we didn't do anything for 3-4 years. So, I guess I would have to say in 2020, at the beginning of 2020, when everything started to shut down from COVID and I had all the rest of the post to do and everything and all, 800 visual effects, I probably went, how's this going to get done? And I thought, well, I can't work. There's no jobs. I can't do anything else. I'll just finish the goddamn movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
It's
you do
a brief
visual
moment.
effects, so you probably worked on that a lot.
Yeah, about 800 shots in the movie.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
a little
lot
too
of
much,
shots.
but I sort of set myself up while I was shooting. Like when I ran into problems, damn,
Fix it in post.
I'll put the muzzle flashes in post.
My favorite visual effect I've seen you do is when in Axe Giant, when what's his name, the bear guy, Grizzly Adams,
Oh,
falls
Grizzly Adams.
into the
In the sawmill,
yes,
the sawmill blade,
so awesome.
cut him in half. Hey, he said, Dan Haggerty said, I've never died in any of the movies.
Yeah, well,
Guess
like,
what?
that's
guess what, pal? Your dream has come true. I can't believe John Whitney took my last question. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
And this wraps it up. Thanks, guys.
Well, surely you have a question about Jolly Roger and the pole dancing, getting your head cut off. Never mind.
No, I don't. But I love the title. No, I'm going to start with Chris, then we'll finish up with you. Since you've gone from wrestling into acting, and you've been doing the stunt work, and now you got a taste for it, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's easy to look at you and as a casting director physically think, well, I'm going to cast him as the prison guard,
Right.
the Russian prison guard,
Right.
the bouncer,
Right.
the heavy. As an actor now, is there a part or a kind of part that you're hoping you get a chance to do a type of role that you want that you haven't done yet?
The thing is I look at these guys like Jason Momoa and Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham, and these guys all play superheroes, and they're all in their late 20s, early 50s, and I'm 50 years old. So the next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to be a superhero. I mean, I think I'm an actor with stunt abilities is what
Right.
I call myself. So I can kill two birds with one stone, even though I know producers and directors don't like actors doing their own stunt work, because if they get hurt, then they got to shut production down, whatever. But so I always use my stunts stuff to get my foot in the door but I'm getting older. I got to get a hip replaced, and my shoulders are shot and all that good stuff. But I'm getting more into the acting, and I listen to a lot of like master acting classes, and not everything works for me because I get typecasted. I'm a character actor.
You do. I was going to say, people look at you and they immediately think.
Prison guard, bodyguard. You'll never see me in The Notebook. You'll never see me.
But I guess that's my question.
And do I have a problem with it? Absolutely not. As long as I'm working.
Okay,
I don't
as long
care.
as you're working. But
I don't care.
There's not a project in your heart or in your head like someday I know I could be doing this type of role on film. I mean, not Hamlet, but
Gary always tells me what I need to do is I need to just start doing theater work because theater work prepares you to be an actor. Because in an actor, we can do take 2 or take 3, take 4. In theater work, you're on stage, you got to do it, and if you don't do it, you got to be thinking on your feet.
But it's your part. You own it.
Exactly.
Whatever it is, it's yours.
So I'm thinking about doing some theater work at the local theater in Mansfield just to kind of polish up on my acting. But out of everything that I'd like to do overall, I'd like to do a comedic role because
that's what I'm talking about.
I come
That's my
off as
question.
a rough, rugged, whatever. Right. I'd like to look, and I have no problem doing this on my own, looking stupid and ridiculous. To be on screen and look stupid and ridiculous, I kind of like to see what I look like when I look stupid and ridiculous.
Right. You can be on our comedy heist movie.
You could be in our comedy heist movie.
Definitely, give me a call.
The one that we keep talking and brewing about, and eventually we'll write a script
that's a good formula.
But it's good.
The Rock did it, and because I've got kids, so I've seen more like comedy family movies with The Rock than action movies.
Well, The Rock, by branching out and doing the humor. Well, Schwarzenegger started. I mean,
Kindergarten Cop.
There was a movie called Be Cool where The Rock played a gay bodyguard.
Right.
And for me, something like that, I've got to be able to outact my acting ability, which puts pressure on me. And I always have a tendency to thrive when there's pressure on me because I don't want to look like a fool. I don't want to go on set, just like I was told when I did stunt work. If you can't do a fire burn, don't tell someone you can do a fire burn, because if somebody hires you for a fire burn and you can't do it, you're going to get a bad name in the business. Yep. So don't come off and say you're a great actor if you're not a great actor, because they may give you miles and miles of dialogue that you have to learn. And if I can't learn all that and I go on set and they say, well, you ready? And I'm like, blah, 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 blah,
line.
They're not going to hire me anymore. So I have to be prepared, and I have to do things that are inside my circle that I can do. I can't do anything outside until I accomplish everything.
I'll be curious.
It's all about expanding the circle every
but away from stunts too, like you said, a character actor. It's
right.
Like, if you look at all the people, all the guys you follow,
right?
They don't do this. They do action stuff and stuff,
right.
But there's stunt people that do it. Again, because you become a commodity.
Sure.
You're not going to ride that motorcycle through the plate glass window. It ain't going to happen.
Right.
Well,
Gary always tells me you got to develop a brand. Mm-hmm. A brand. You have to have a team around you. You have to have people that are going to support you. You can't have any negativity in your mm-hmm. circle to bring you down. I mean, do I need that kick in the butt where somebody says, that might be outside your window. Mm-hmm. You might. Yeah, I do need that, because then I get a little higher on my horse and I do something that I can't do. So I need somebody in my circle that's going to be brutally honest with me and say, hey, you might think twice about doing that. I don't know if you can do it. And so I do need something like that. But I have to develop a brand, and that brand is, and I need to perfect that brand or that character that I want to be. So that's the kind of the way I look at it.
Okay. I think the theater would be a good move. That's definitely going to challenge you.
Sure it is.
Especially the first time they ask you if you're off book. Are you off book yet? You got to memorize? You got your part memorized?
Yeah, that's...
theater scares the shit out of me.
Me too.
I've not done it, and everybody says I mean,
it's
should
different
try,
when
but
we got 2,500 people staring at you in your live, where I have 15 people behind mics and cameras and stuff like that. And if I screw up, I know I can do another take.
Do another take. Can't do another take until the next night.
Exactly.
Next night.
And
there is another night.
They're not closed after night one.
Thank you very much. It was nice working with you.
And you, my friend, Gary Jones, we went down some of the list of some of the films you've done, and of course the most recent one, Escape from Death Block 13. And I'm trying to pick up on the vibe. I don't know if this might just be a simple no answer, and if it is, so be it. But I don't think that'll be the case. is there a passion project in you? You say you're in the commercial art business. That's away from the commercial art business. That's away from these action film genres, these horror genres. As you've gone from the time you were a kid until where you are right now, has there been, whether you said it to yourself or to your wife, honey, someday I'm going to make a movie about this, and it's completely different from this body of work that you have here?
Well, it's interesting actually, because most of the things that I want to do, they're in various categories,
Right.
But they're all nothing that doesn't. They all seem commercial to me. I
you-
think they all are.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, if I make this movie, people are going to see my name on it and go, this is a Gary Jones movie?
So, it's interesting. Okay, so in Death Block 13, I took the credit, written and directed by.
Right.
And I did it for a reason, in that I came into this business wanting to be a director. I started writing to make stuff to get into the business. So writing wasn't the first thing. I mean, it takes me forever to write. I can't read my spelling's all messed up, right? Or reading. I didn't want to do that stuff in school. I wanted to direct and make movies. But as I went through my career, I started to do a little bit more writing, a little bit more, and I started to see the power structure of how things work. And it's like an idea is stronger than any director, any actor. An idea, those simple words on a page, a thought, an idea, a story, it's the most powerful thing. And as I've been moving through my career as a director, and I've directed TV shows and movies and doing effects and things, I thought, as my dad always said, get really good at something, and you'll never be out of work. If you were a plumber or dig ditches, whatever it is. So I thought I got good at what I did. And then the bottom fell out of the industry, and the pay rates dropped, and the Sci-Fi Channel money dropped. Everything just dropped. So instead of making more each movie, I started to make less. I go, what's going on? It was the economics of the business is going a certain way. And I realized, it's not enough to be really good at what you do, right? You have to find out what in that business you're in, what's going to allow you to keep doing those things you like to do. And part of it is writing and coming up with a story. So in this movie, I made the turn and go written and directed by. So as I move forward, it's written and directed by, not directed by, because it's the story. It's the writing where everything comes from. And if you have that, and even if the story's not well written, but it's a great idea, you can bring writers and you can bring people in that are more versed to make that work. But as a director, great. But if you don't have a hit, I have friends that have directed movies that are 10 times better than any movie I ever made, and they can't sell their movie, or they don't get another shot. And I'm like, wow, this guy's a good director. How come he's not being hired? It's a whole lot. The business is about a lot of other stuff, It's flavor of the month. It's hitting, lightning catching in a bottle. So the writing, I guess I have to say, is like I'm concentrating more on coming up with a story. And I also discovered I really like producing. I don't have to be in the director's chair. I always thought I had to be in the director's chair. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have to be there to get to be creative and do it. So it's writing.
Having produced films with John and one behind you as well, that's a whole different hat as well.
It's a different
hat. You don't
hat.
have to be, but a good producer,
a
good executive producer and producer period is huge.
And as a producer, recognizing a good story.
Right.
So once again, what's the most powerful thing in the business? Yeah, you can have Tom Cruise in the movie and it can bomb. But if there's a story that gets everybody's juices flowing and creative, you have a shot. You have longevity.
I think
hence your commercial.
Yeah, or we're talking about the streaming. These streaming shows are taking off because people go, oh, what the hell, give it a shot. I don't know anybody in it, don't know what it's about, but then they're hooked.
Right.
And then they watch 10 hours of it and want more.
Escape from Death Block 13. Vengeance can't be caged. Bum, 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 bum. Give us all the pertinent details
Cool.
as to far as to when people can see it, how they can see it, and we're dropping this podcast early enough that if there are some upcoming Columbus dates,
Cool.
we can get those in there, and they'll be timely
Great.
as well. So go.
Okay. So starting off, which we might miss, is this Friday we're doing a drive-in screening up in Norwalk. We're showing Death Block 13 and Mosquito up there.
Tight.
It's a drive-in double feature thing.
We'll miss that one. So
You missed
sorry.
that. Gateway Theater on the 15th of October. We're
We
going
got
to be
that one.
screening there. That's in Columbus for all the Columbus crowd. And then I think after that, we'll be up in Cleveland at the Capitol Theater, probably toward the end of the month. And then we're screening in LA for the LA cast and crew who didn't make it out to our cast and crew screening.
Nice.
That's going to be at the end of October 23rd. We have some more drive-in screenings, hopefully up in Michigan, where I'm working on right now. And then November 2nd, we hit all the streaming platforms. Wherever you iTunes, whatever, pay-per-view, Dish TV. End of November, it'll be Walmart DVDs.
Nice. A physical copy?
Physical copies, yep. We're actually going to have it.
And those are the places where people pick them up.
They do,
They grab 'em.
DVDs are not that big anymore,
But they're not
it's
dead.
It's not dead. And again, anything with as a product. I have a friend that's putting out VHS tapes. I'm going to work a deal out with him to put this out on VHS.
Yeah.
You have to put your product on any platform anybody will pay for. And so by end of November we should be everywhere, and we're waiting to hear about Netflix and Redbox, which I'm hoping for.
Nice.
So come November, you probably won't be able to escape
From
13.
Death Block 13. You won't be able to do it.
And then the vengeance will be all mine.
Yeah.
All the millions rolling in.
Many thanks, gentlemen.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Best of luck with your
I
career
appreciate
moving
it.
forward.
Thank you.
So much for coming. Gary, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been
Best of
great.
luck with the film. I can't wait to see it in its entirety because now I've just been teased with the clips.
It's
You
good,
know,
Dino. It's fun.
it's
just
fun. I'm anxious to see more of Robert Bronzi.
Yes.
Because I was a huge Charles Bronson fan.
Yes.
And then you also got Nick Turturro. You got Lawrence Hilton Jacobs in the film from
Chris Hahn.
Yeah, Chris Hahn.
Yeah. Debbie Scaletta from up in Cleveland, and Linda Russell from right down here in Columbus.
And I'd be
No, I never
remiss.
watched
I'd be remiss not to mention our own Rick Napoli.
Rick Napoli's in it. Yep.
Are there any other clips that we would have that we haven't played yet?
I only have two.
We only played one though, right?
We only played one.
And
We're
then
gonna
the fight.
we're gonna slip the bullpen clip into the conversation that I was having with him earlier. I think
Cool.
we find a creative
All right.
way to slip that
Nice.
one in there. So
Right.
it's a bullpen clip. So
edit that part
you'll be getting all this out of the audio portion of it. But I want to thank our guest bottle, Big House Whiskey, straight
good.
bourbon whiskey.
Not bad. Not
Yeah, John Whitney thought it'd be appropriate since we were talking about a prison film to have Big House Whiskey.
I discovered that a few years ago, and I said, no.
17
Someday
The
there
Big
will be
House.
a show where we would have this whiskey.
$17 a
Big
bottle.
House.
This is a good everyday pour.
Yeah.
In your everyday bourbons. So without a doubt, it's got a nice touch of vanilla and caramel in it. And if I remember the nose correctly, it was. I can't really tell from that anymore.
It was good. I had a
was-
great
it was-
finish. Very flavorful.
Very nice. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. So thank you to that. And thank you again, gentlemen. Also thank Greg Hansberry on the audio side of things.
Thanks,
Do you want to
sir.
remind people again what to do real quick?
Yeah,
Just a
well,
couple
quick,
things?
evergreenpodcast.com, whiskeybusinesspod.com. Thank you for subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Whiskey Business with Dina Tripodis, and we're working out a deal with Redbox. So we'll,
No, we're not.
no.
We're gonna print these
Yeah.
on CDs.
Yeah,
On CDs, there you go.
No,
Cassette.
no,
Cassette
no,
tape,
Cassette
yeah.
tape.
8-track cassettes.
8 tracks. That's all.
8
I'm going
tracks.
with.
There you
Oh,
Going-
fine,
going- going
Get out the
retro,
Scotch
retro.
tape, fix them, and they work.
On the video side, John Whitney, so much thank you. Our guests have been Gary Jones, writer and director, and actor Chris Hahn, who plays Bunyan in Escape from Death Block 13. Vengeance can't be caged, but you can have a pretty cool conversation over the course of it on Whiskey Business. I'm Dino Tripodis. Until the next bottle, see ya.